From New York to Gaza, globalize our Antifada. This is unacceptable. Jerusalem's our capital. This is unacceptable. Jerusalem's our capital. Stop the U.S. war machine. From Palestine to the Philippines. You can't hide. You're committing genocide. Resistance is justified. When people are colonized. 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 And there's only one solution. Antifada revolution. And there is only one solution. Antifada revolution. Antifada, Antifada. Long live the Antifada. Antifada, Antifada. Long live the Antifada. Giving a massacre in Gaza to the tune of $10 million a day with your tax dollars. So as the bombs continue to fall on Gaza, we pause to commemorate the 36th anniversary of the 1985 bombing of the MOVE organization. And the sole adult survivor of the bombing, Ramona Africa, once said, "How are you going to let your enemy tell you that you don't have the right to resist?" How can Israel tell us that we don't have a right to resist our annihilation, our genocide? When people say that Palestine cannot fight back, what does that mean? That we should just lay down and die? That the people of Gaza should just peacefully accept genocide? That the people of Sheikh Jarrah should just peacefully accept base force displacement at one point or another, in one way or another? This is not new. Finally, we have some semblance of social media, another way to get these stories out. But even on Instagram and Facebook, these accounts are being deleted. Information on Palestine was being deleted just before this. A couple of the organizers, we were talking and we found out a bunch of us are just banned from Instagram Live, even showing this protest. Every single major institution, whether it's the U.S. government, whether it's the mainstream media, whether it's these social media apps, and whether it's Israel itself, is spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to silence the truth. But you are all here today. So that means it's coming out. And we don't want you to just witness this genocide and take pictures of us getting angry, of us protesting. Like I said, for those who came at the beginning, for those who came late, you are part of this too. If you live in this country, if you pay taxes, $10 million every single day to the military budget alone. This ends up as bullets in the chest of Palestinian children. This ends up as bombs dropped on the people of Gaza. This genocide is manufactured by and paid for by the U.S. too. So we're not just here in solidarity with Palestinians. We're also here to demand that the U.S. government end all military aid to Israel, and that the U.S. government that has 800 military bases Zionist population to take over.
Not another nickel, not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes. Not another nickel,
Not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes.
not another nickel, not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime, no more money for Israel's crimes.
Not another nickel, not another dime, no more
door, man. Yo, close this door. Close that door.
Yeah, back up. They got it under control, guys.
Don't touch him. Why you touch him? Why you touch him? Don't touch him. Don't touch him. You work for us. You work for the people. Our streets. 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 Our streets.
What about the blocking of a fucking country?
My brother, with the red hoodie.
You're just fucking neck in the streets blocked off. Imagine decades of apartheid. Imagine fucking decades of being shut down from progression.
You get trained by Israel.
Free, free, free Palestine! 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 From the river to the sea! From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free!
This red hoodie symbolizes Palestine and the freedom fighters. If you stand with Palestine, wear the hoodie. The red hoodie symbolizes Palestine. Wear the red helmets. Thank you, bro. Thank you.
From the Philippines. I stand with Palestine. Fucking ground.
No, watch out.
And I'm through.
Movement that began in the late 1800s and peaked with the Nakba of 1948. Now, in Israel's attempts to forcibly remove Sheikh Jarrah, I'm not going to say that the nice way, sorry, residents. Again, what is and has been happening in Sheikh, how do I say this? Sheikh Jarrah. Did I do a good job? Sheikh Jarrah is not new. This is part of decades-long ongoing policies of forcibly dispossessing Palestinians of their land. The Nakba did not end in 1948. It is ongoing. Some of the terms you have heard in mainstream media include the Israeli-Arab conflict. Let us be clear, there is no conflict. This is a settler colonial occupation.
Period!
You also hear about needing balanced reporting, but there is no balanced relationship between an occupying power and the occupied. Balance is not part of a decolonial lexicon. You hear that the situation is too complicated and complex to take a position on. This refrain is a Zionist tactic that encourages you to remain silent and reinforce the status quo. Think about who said this as an excuse to avoid standing in solidarity. Palestinians never say, it's too complicated to understand. There is nothing complicated about the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. One has the fourth largest military in the world, including nuclear power, and continually inflicts violence in any number of ways. The other has been resisting their colonization through a myriad of tactics, from throwing stones to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, because that is what is happening now, a resistance movement on multiple fronts in multiple forms. Hopefully, you will be part of that, and this will be continued. Whether or not the Israeli occupation is apartheid, while we have called this apartheid for many decades, Israeli human rights organizations are finally recognizing that Israel is an apartheid state. Finally, you hear the media call the Palestinians who live in 48 Arab Israelis. 48ers are Palestinian, period. Despite correcting them over and over, the media continues to perpetuate this language because it projects an utterly false picture of Israeli citizenship and coexistence. You also have been hearing about pogroms and lynching in what they call mixed Arab Israeli towns and cities to perpetuate the fantasy that Palestinians are treated as neighbors. But these towns, such as Lod and Haifa, are deeply segregated, spatially in terms of where housing and businesses and schools are located, as well as economically in terms of denying Palestinians resources to develop community infrastructure. There is apartheid in Israel itself, not just the occupation. These are some of the media sound bites that you will hear over and over again, despite multiple interventions by Palestinian journalists and activists. For the rest of this presentation, I turn to the specifics of Gaza, a 14-year blockade of the Gaza Strip that is often referred to as the world's largest open-air prison, as well as one of the world's most densely populated areas. Again, these are easy tropes that we can break down. What is the blockade exactly, and how does it work?
Physical governance. That means that the logistics of how, when, and why goods and people are allowed in and out is not a byproduct of the blockage, but its actual, literal purpose. So when Israel says it is no longer occupying Gaza, they are attempting to erase the remote control of Gaza that happens through the control of logistics. In other words, logistical control is a form of population control.
That's right.
The blockade not only keeps things out and keeps people in, it also creates a perpetual state of uncertainty. You never know when the electricity will turn off. You never know if your medical permit to receive medical care in the West Bank will take 1 month or 6 months to be approved, though you never assume it will actually be approved. You never know if the Rafah border with Egypt will still be open by the time you get there, and for how long it might be closed if it is not. You never know when medicines might be available or surgeries that you need might be possible. You can't count on the regular supply of clean water. Sometimes you get what you need and sometimes you don't, but you don't know which of those will happen when. That's part of the logistical governance, to subject a population to endless uncertainty. Gazans have been living like only 6% of 5 million Palestinians living under Israeli occupation have been vaccinated. Contrast that to more than 50% of Israelis. What would it mean for the siege to end? It would mean that Gaza could reopen an airport. It would mean that Gazans could travel to see relatives and friends in the West Bank, 48, and East Jerusalem, and beyond. It would mean the Gazan economy could grow, and unemployment, which is often found around 70%, could be mitigated. It means Gazans could enjoy their seashores and their homes in peace. Viva, viva Palestina! 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 Viva, viva Palestina!
At least 30,000 injured Palestinians. During this time, Israel had a very specific discussion about using injury and maiming to keep the death toll so as not to solicit global attention and disapproval.
That's right.
Disability is a big part of life in Gaza. From the siege of 2014, the stats say about 2,000 deaths, but the number of injuries again is staggering. Estimates starting in the tens of thousands, because Israel targets and destroys medical infrastructure. Wounds that could be treated often become permanent disabilities. Gaza was still dealing with a huge wave of disabled people when 2018 happened. You might recall that during the Great March of Return, which began on Land Day, March 30th, 2018, and was by and large peaceful resistance along the so-called boundaries between Israel and Gaza, the Israeli military opened and brazenly injured tens of thousands of protesters during the first month of the Great March, including 7,000 Gazans in the lower limbs. You saw these sensationalizing pictures of men in wheelchairs with crutches on the pages of the New York Times and the Washington Post. But what is never covered is the aftermath of these injuries. Many of these injuries required amputation. Many required multiple surgeries. And again, the medical infrastructure is so compromised that it was overwhelmed by the influx. Targeting limbs, especially lower limbs and knees, is both symbolically and literally an attempt to foreclose Palestinian mobility and the capacity to resist. And yet, we see repeatedly that disabled Palestinians are often on the front lines of protest. We can also connect the tactical use of injury to Kashmir, where hundreds of resistors have been shot in the eye and many blinded. Again, the targeting of the eyes is both symbolic and literal. We can also connect these tactics to the hundreds of blinded protests from the Chilean uprisings in 2019 and the increased use of globally what is purportedly non-lethal weapons such as rubber bullets and tear gas for crowd control and protests, and frankly towards the deliberate disabling of insurgent resistors of state violence.
Woo! Woo!
The sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
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 Thank you.
The section of this teach-out is called Solidarity. Woo! Tomorrow is Nakba Day, a day that commemorates the violent expulsion of Palestinians from their land 73 years ago. Tomorrow, there will be mass mobilization around the world that includes every possible movement you can imagine, from Black Lives Matter, to Puerto Rican sovereignty, to the farmers' protests, to those fighting the occupation of Kashmir, and so many more. From Angela Davis, we understand that justice is indivisible, and we learned this lesson over and over again from Black, Indigenous, queer, Arab, from Palestinian feminists who call for the adoption of their statement, quote, Palestine is a feminist issue. Woo! In solidarity,
and as tribute to the fierce resistance of the Palestinian people, who I remain in awe of, and that's not written in here, that's just from Decolonize. I want to end with a paragraph from Ghassan Kanafani's 1957 short story, Letter from Gaza, where he refers to Gaza as an amputated town. We let the homies beat the horn for a second, we pause. Revising injury and resistance after visiting the hospital to see his niece who had her leg amputated. It goes like this. My friend, never shall I forget Nadia's leg, amputated from the top of the thigh. No, nor shall I forget the grief which had molded her face and merged into its traits forever. I went out of the hospital in Gaza that day, my hand clutched in silent derision on the 2 pounds I had brought with me to give Nadia. The blazing sun filled the streets with the color of blood, and Gaza was brand new, Mustafa. You and I never saw it like this. The stone piled up at the beginning of the Shajia quarter, where we lived, had a meaning, and they seemed to have been put there for no other reason but to explain it. This Gaza in which we had lived, and with those whose good people we had spent 7 years of defeat, was something new. It seemed to me just the beginning. I don't know why I thought it was just the beginning. I imagined that the main street that I had walked along on the way back home was only the beginning of a long, long road leading to Safad. Everything in this Gaza throbbed with sadness, which was not confined to weeping. It was a challenge. More than that, it was something like reclamation of the amputated leg. That's all, folks.
Palestinian, I know him personally, and he has family in Palestine. He's angered and upset by what's going on, so he stood on top of a car here to hold a Palestinian flag. A beautiful sight. Well, guess what? He went to go park his car in this parking lot right here to join us, and as soon as he stepped out, 5, 6 cops just rushed him, threw him on the ground, and started beating him up. We have videos of it.
Just right now.
Just right now, they took him. This is what happens when you stand for Palestine here in the U.S. They act like, so what? He was blocking traffic for 5 seconds. People block traffic every day in Manhattan just to double park. But they brutalized him. And this is nothing new. This is what the cops do. So we're going to march to the precinct and we're going to demand that they release him. Palestinian youth have a right to defend themselves. Palestinian youth have a right to fight for their homeland. And we will not let one of our own be nabbed and beaten by cops just for standing for Palestine or for any reason at all. We're going to get prepared to march in a few. So if you're at risk, if you're not willing to take, if you're at risk, just stay to the side. Folks who are undocumented or anything, just be careful because they just turned it up a notch. We didn't do anything. We're here peacefully protesting and they're throwing punches, arresting people, as they always do. So we're going to get folks ready to march. We're going to go to the precinct and we're going to stand outside and demand that he is released. But before we go, we have one more teach-in. I just wanted folks to keep this at the forefront so folks who are at risk can be made aware. But we will not let one of our own be nabbed. And we will go and protest outside the precinct until they release him.
My family lives in Gaza. Can you hear me now? Is this better? Okay, thank you. My name is Tamad. I'm with the Palestinian Youth Movement New York City chapter. right now in Shati camp and in Gaza City. I wake up every morning. I don't know if they're alive or not until I hear back from them. Everyone's fine so far, alhamdulillah. I just wanted to talk today about how MoMA is complicit in ongoing Israeli violence and settler colonization in Palestine. Today we're witnessing levels of violence in and across Palestine not seen in decades. My family in Shati camp and in Gaza City has said that the bombing they've experienced in the past few days is worse than anything they've seen before. The sheer force of weaponry from the air, land, sea, simultaneously is horrific. There are also reports of white phosphorus-like substance being used in the bombs, which we all know is prohibited under international law. Not that Israel gives a fuck about international law. F-35 warplanes are being used in Gaza as we speak. Do you know who makes these? Yes. Lockheed Martin, exactly. Guess who's invested in Lockheed Martin? BlackRock. BlackRock. Larry Fink, who is on MoMA's board, is the CEO of BlackRock. Do you know what else is being used in Gaza right now? F-16s, Apache helicopters, starships, all of which are manufactured by General Electric. Do you know who's invested in GE? BlackRock and Apollo Global Management. Leon Black, who's the chairman of MoMA's board, is the founder of Apollo Global Management. I want to talk about my friend Mohammed Al-Kurd. Do you guys all know him? Who doesn't know Mohammed? Exactly. Mohammed is Rifka Al-Kurd's grandson. Rifka passed away last year, June 16th, at 103 years old. Allah yarhamha. Mohammed's family has been battling a settler takeover of their home for decades. In fact, half of their family home is currently occupied by settlers. What Mohammed's family is experiencing in Sheikh Jarrah is a microcosm of what Palestinians have been experiencing since 1948. Israeli settler colonization is relentless and truly an enterprise. One of the most infamous companies involved in building settlements is Caterpillar. Do you know who's invested in Caterpillar? Apollo Global Management, Leon Black's company. Let's talk about a few other people on the board, and I'll wrap it up. I'll be quick. Iyad Ofer. He's on the board. He's an Israeli billionaire who's made his money in the shipping industry. He was also in the Israeli Air Force from 1967 to 1973. He's a war criminal. His family's wealth is built on the ethnic cleansing of Palestine from the jump. Next up, John Elkann, CEO of Exor, a massive holding company that controls and owns CNH Industrial. CNH Industrial is a company that is involved in the construction of settlements and related infrastructure. Next up, Edith Cooper. These are all people on MoMA's board, by the way.
Fuck MoMA!
Fuck MoMA. Exactly. Edith Cooper is a former partner of Goldman Sachs, whose charity arm supports the extremely violent settler outposts in Hebron, with tens of thousands of dollars in donations to the Hebron Fund. Just this week, Israeli soldiers and settlers have injured dozens of Palestinians in Hebron. There are plenty more, but I'm going to stop here because this just gives you a sense of what MoMA's board looks like. And, you know, we can pass out more information later or talk about who else is on the board. But what does a quick look at MoMA's board tell us? That the wealth of these people is built and sustained on the destruction of Palestinian life. This is by no means an exhaustive list, and MoMA's complicity in violence and oppression certainly does not stop with Palestine. We know this. We know that Steve Tannenbaum, Glenn Dubin, and Stephen Cohen, etc., all on the board of MoMA, have all been identified as having ties to war beyond Palestine, to racist prison and border enforcement systems, gentrification and dispossession, environmental degradation, the racist ass NYPD, the list goes on and on. But for Palestinians, we look to the resistance that is happening now. The settler state of Israel is trembling because Palestinians from the Negev to Akka, from Gaza to Jericho, from Elid to Jenin, are rising up like never before. Palestinians in Jordan are marching to the border. Zionist colonization. This is truly an unprecedented moment in Palestinian history. It is our political duty here in the US to uplift and support the uprising that we see unfolding throughout all of Palestine and the Arab world. This also means that it is our duty to dismantle Zionism and all the interconnected systems of oppression here in the US. Like targeting those whose wealth comes from violence and colonial destruction. So with that, I'll say fuck settler colonialism, fuck racial capitalism, and fuck MoMA. Thank you.
Just today, people were marching from Jordan and Lebanon. And the first Shaheed from Lebanon, Mohammed Tahan, gave up his life, sacrifice to liberate Palestine. Allah yarhamu. He's not the first Lebanese, and he won't be the last, because guess what? A part of Lebanon is still occupied, and a part of Syria is still occupied. The Golan Heights under Trump was renamed Trump Heights? How are you giving somebody else's land? All of it is our demand, no peace, our stolen land.
All of it is our demand, no peace, our stolen land.
All of it is our demand, no peace.
Stolen land.
All of it is our demand, no peace. Our stolen land. All of it is our demand, no peace. Our stolen land. All of it is our demand, no peace. Our stolen land. Yeah. They passed the deal of the century thinking that they succeeded. Well, today was proof.
Other things, accessibility issues, these kind of things, you make a decision on whether you want to participate on the sidewalk, whether you want to participate in the streets, but we are taking the streets.
Yes, sir.
And where are we going?
In the precinct.
Because they did what?
They took one of us.
And what do we think about that?
It's pure shit.
It's bullshit. And what do we want?
Justice.
That's right. So let's get information. The banners need to be picked up.
They beat the shit out of Saada for nothing. And they beat him up. They beat up Saada for nothing. Look, y'all ain't the one who do that.
Their job is very important. Their job is very important. Because you control the tempo. You are at your fucking wedding right now. You are marching down the aisle. We have to go slow because there's free. We got everybody moving the same way. Slow.
That's crazy.
Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea!
I thought you were trying to put it in front of them. I want him to step on it.
It is right to rebel! Zionists, go to hell! It is right to rebel! Zionists,
right to rebel.
Israel, go to hell.
Israel, go to hell.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
Resistance is justified.
Resistance is justified.
When people are occupied.
People are occupied.
Resistance is justified.
Resistance is justified.
When people are occupied.
People are occupied.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free
Let him go! 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 Let him out! 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 Let him out!
We need information because we can't account for it.
Do you want an escalation or not? You want this to escalate? We're trying to de-escalate. So you're either going to tell us if he's here or not. We will know how to proceed. If you leave him in limbo, this is not going to be. Fucking produce the information.
Look, this is it. Is he in here?
You have his name. bro. Why are you here then? What can you do? Dude, we fucking support us.
Listen, we're here trying to understand where one of our people is. We know that you took him. There's a fucking badge number that you took him. So why is it so hard that no one can actually answer a question? Right. It's a simple fucking question.
They can't even look you in the eye. Yeah, I know. Like,
there's someone missing. Jesus Christ! What is on your job description?
Make money. Yeah.
We're trying to de-escalate a situation. Someone, and we have footage, got hit. And they got hit bad. And they were taken to this precinct. And we can't find them. Barricades for what? The looks on your faces for what?
Look at him on his butt. Look at him.
Come on, guys. What the hell?
You just said he was here.
Do you think any of these people are afraid of you?
My big fat bitch.
You guys waited until he was in the parking lot by himself and beat the shit out of him. Do you care just when it shows up in the news?
We got it on video!
He's mad.
Yeah. So people are gonna sit in the intersection. And if you think this is a normal fucking gathering, you're mistaken. So get your white fucking shirt and tell us where he is.
Mic check!
Mic check!
Everyone into the intersection, please. Forming a circle. Forming a circle. We are forming a circle. If you have the ability and don't mind dirtying your own Navy jeans, have a seat. Sit down. Everybody sit. Everybody sit. Everybody sit.
Let him go!
Let him go. 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 Let him go.
Sorry.
Our streets! Our streets! Our land! Our land! Our land!
Oh, you need water?
We will free Palestine. Written our lifetime. Resistance is justified. When people are colonized. Resistance is justified. When people are colonized.
I'm back, Smiley. I'm his cousin. No, look. We're not making threats.
I said, I'm making no threats. His wife
I will keep them here for 3 fucking games.
He's gonna go home late again. His wife gonna put him.
Where are they? Where is he? Just let me see him. That's it. Is he coming out or not? So look, you're gonna remain silent? I'll keep them here all night. Come on.
We're not fucking leaving until he comes out here.
We're not going nowhere until he's out.
We're not going anywhere.
You did it.
Where he is!
Where he is.
Palestinian
Come on. That's not me? No, it's not you. That's what I was asking. Well, if that's you, I don't know. No, it's not.
Are being kidnapped.
Let's do it.
It's not worse than genocide. And that's why they arrested him.
That's why they arrested him.
Because he was waving the Palestinian flag on top of a car for 5 minutes. That's what they got him for. That's what the NYPD do. They don't protect themselves.
gets into NLG
that he should be out by the night. So we are going to
set out of time.
jail support and wait. This is possibly the most important part of doing an action. You leave no one behind. You stay. So we will gather our fucking money together. We'll get some pizzas. We'll get some donuts and make them jealous. We'll coffee, whatever. We're gonna hold down the barricades until our boy is out. You will let some of these working people go home. The donuts are not for you people. Right there at the barricade. Somebody order me a fucking pepperoni slice. Whose megaphone is this? Come get your shit.
Let me know if you need
I got this.